Hi there, welcome back to Long Distance Review, and welcome to part 2 of my countdown of the top 20 albums of 2018. Oh, by the way, apologies first, my voice seems to have gone a bit really weird today. I'm either really hungover, or I've sort of got a bad throat or something, or a bit of both. Anyway, I've downed a Lemsip, and we'll see if my voice can hold out for the next 10 minutes. Anyway, if you haven't watched part 1 already, go back. That's obviously albums 20 to 11. This will be albums 10 to 1. So don't watch this and then go, wow, why didn't you put this song in here, this album in here, then realise it's in my top 20. But anyway, I'll crack on because I've got quite a lot to get through. So we'll start, as always, at number 10. And number 10 this year is Behemoth with I Loved You at Your Darkest. This is the 11th album from Polish black metalers Behemoth. And it's their first in 4 years after the incredible Satanist. Now, the Satanists sort of put Behemoth on the map a little bit in the terms of, let's say, the mass metal community. Although they've always been known in the sort of more underground black metal world, the Satanists put them on the map in the mainstream of metal. So it was interesting to see what they did after that. And what they've really done is just progress from the Satanists. There are plenty of songs on here which could be lifted straight off the Satanists at times. But they've also put a new dynamic into their sound. There's slower, more atmospheric songs like Barzabel and... let me try and say this one right. Ecclesia Diabolica Catholica. Somewhere around there. And they've incorporated things like kids' choirs into the song God Equals Dog. But it all really works. And it's always very interesting. It gives the songs more room to breathe and makes them very atmospheric and haunting at times. This is an incredible album. And I know that Nurgle takes this very seriously because at times you can listen to this album and think, well, this is a bit satanic and it's a bit ridiculous. But this is all done heartfelt and soulful from the band. The drumming's outstanding, the guitar work's outstanding, and Nurgle's throaty vocals are ridiculously good on here. Go check it out. If you've never listened to them before, this is a real good introduction to them. Anyway, crack on. Number 9 on my list is Coheed and Cambria with the Unheavenly Creatures, Vaxis part, can't remember. Anyway, the Unheavenly Creatures, we'll call it. This is the 9th album from the US prog metal titans. But it's the first time they've returned to the storyline of the Amory Wars that is all their albums are usually centered around, apart from their last album, which was called The Colour Before the Sun. This is a return to that, and in a way it feels much more grandiose than that album, which felt a bit more minimalist. Although I really like that album, this feels like a huge, huge album. It is a lengthy affair, let's say. It's 70-odd minutes long, but it never feels sort of overstaying its welcome, let's say. It doesn't feel bloated, and there's no real sort of 10-minute sprawling prog numbers that they have put on albums before, like the song like the Wishing Well songs. Every song is a big hook, a big chorus on it, and I think it sounds great. It's a bit of an appeasement album in my eyes. It's sort of a cross between the more prog side of Coheed and the more radio-friendly side of Coheed we've had before. It's full of sort of ideas and subtleties. Give it a few listens and you'll pick up like the piano work on All on Fire or the great double-time drumming they do on the chorus of It Walks Among Us. And at the end of the day, there's no need to like the Amory Wars concept, to like Coheed and Cambria. These are big stadium-sized rock songs at the end of the day. And I think that puts people off, the fact that, well, I don't understand this Amory Wars business. You don't need to. This is a great album and a big album from a great band. Number 8 then on my list is Thrice with Palms. It's the 10th album from US, I'll just call them rock band. I know they've been labelled a lot of things, but they're a critically acclaimed band. And at the end of the day, Thrice don't put out bad albums. There's just varying degrees of great albums in my eyes with Thrice. This is an album full of atmosphere, with its slow building opener over Only Us, right up to the closing more ambient number, Beyond the Pines. Thrice prove what incredible songwriters they are on here. The choruses are big and the songs are stirring and honest. It's a slightly more downtrodden album than the previous album, which was To Be Everything Is To Be Nothing. Nearly forgot it. But each song has its own feeling and its own sort of atmosphere around it. They're a technically very, very gifted band, as we all know. Check out the drum work on things like Just Breathe and the guitar work on A Branch in the River. But it's when they push themselves stylistically where I think they become really, really more interesting on this album. The more groovy Blood on Blood is a good point to start with. This album's always interesting, and the band are nothing short of stunning on here. So there we go. Number 7 then is The Excerts with an album called Hold On To Your Heart. This is The Excerts' 4th studio album. They're a UK-based alt-rock band, Scottish band, let's say. This album sees them take a lot of influence from the more 70s classic rock era, the sort of Americana era. Think like Tom Petty and Bruce Springsteen. This album seems to lift a lot of influence from there. It's an album that feels like a journey. It feels like it was born out of a very depressing state, but almost all feels like a journey through depression to find acceptance and realization to what it is, and then focusing on the more hope you have in life. But it's an album full of pop hooks, huge choruses, huge melodies, and it feels joyous and life-affirming. It's written from a very dark place, but it's almost like, although it's written from a dark place, it's an album that focuses on that chink of light we all have in our life. And instead of focusing on the darkness, it focuses on the light. And it makes it so joyous. Murray's vocals are great on here. He's a very emotional singer, but he sort of pours his soul into this album. You can really tell on that. But again, it's just pop melodies, big stadium-sized songs. They should be big, this band. This band should be playing festivals and stadiums. These songs should be sung back to them by 10,000 people. Go check out songs like Hold On To Your Heart and Daydream to see what I mean. So that was number 7. Number 6 on my list is A Perfect Circle, Eat the Elephant. It's the 4th album from US alt-rock band A Perfect Circle, but it's their first album in 14 years. It feels like a long time, because it is a long time. This is an album full of relevance, really, especially thematically. They focus on modern society a lot on this album, the disassociation we have with modern society. They focus on things like isolation and power corruption and death, but usually done with the wry, dry sense of humour that Keenan always has on his albums. It feels like a more accessible album in terms of A Perfect Circle's back catalogue, but it's never anything but interesting, that's for sure. It's an atmospheric and engaging album with a diverse canvas. Check out the more sort of rock-orientated songs like Talk Talk, and then the more spacey ambient songs like Closer, Get the Lead Out. This is a band who are jaw-dropping at times. And then the day of recording, I'm off to see them live tonight, and I can't wait. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5 is Palm Reader with Braille. I think I did the numbers wrong. This is number 5. Palm Reader, Braille. This is the 3rd album from UK-based hardcore, post-hardcore band. And it sees the band becoming more expansive and interesting than they have done on albums before. They still retain the same energy and hardcore that they have done on previous albums. Check out songs like Swarm and Internal Winter off this album. But they've also seen them pushing themselves and becoming more expansive and interesting. Like songs like Inertia, Clockwork, and A Love and Not a Shadow. The vocals are always done with honesty and feeling, and they retain a great sense of melody on this album. They seem to be part of this new upswelling of hardcore bands. Think of like Code Orange and Feed the Rhino, Black Peaks, Employed to Serve, bands like that. There seems to be a real support for this kind of music at the moment, and I hope people get behind Palm Reader, because I think this album's incredible. If you've never listened to them before, go to YouTube and check out Swarm or Internal Winter off this album. So on to number 4. This will be contentious, probably. Number 4 is Parkway Drive and Reverence. This is the 6th album from Australian, I'll say metalcore band. I'll come on to that. But really, this isn't a metalcore album. Yeah, they did start as metalcore, Parkway Drive, but this seems like a progression from Ire. Ire felt like a bit of a turning point for the band, and a change in their sound at times. And this is just a progression from that. It is more radio friendly, I suppose. But it still retains that edge that Parkway Drive had. To me, it's a brave and ambitious album. They could easily have slipped back into metalcore, but they thought, no, we're going to push this further and further. If we wanted to become the biggest band we can be, we need to push this sound further. I don't feel like they're trying to reach for the mainstream. They're making the mainstream come to them. At the end of the day, metalcore is a very confining genre. You need breakdowns and you need guttural, throaty screams. And it's difficult to stay in that genre forever, making interesting albums. So what Parkway Drive have done have come out of that and added elements of traditional metal and new metal at times, but still got metalcore songs on there. It's an album they needed to make to become the band they want to be, I feel. And there's still huge songs on here. Songs like Wishing Wells, Pray and The Void are massive, and they're huge festival headlining size songs, which I feel that's where Parkway Drive will end up. And I know people didn't like this album, but I think it's really good, and it's my list. So number 3 in bronze medal position is Architects and Holy Hell. This is the 8th album from British, again, metalcore band, Architects. And this is an album born out of tragedy and heartbreak. The loss of main chief songwriter Tom Searle, who was the guitarist in the band a few years ago, after the album All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us. This is where that album's come from. And to have that only 2 years down the line, to come out with this album, is an incredible achievement. Sam Carter, the vocalist, has turned into one of the best metal vocalists going now. And the band are technically gifted. Tom Searle will be so proud of what they've done on this album. It's an album full of atmosphere, and at times it is a tough listen because of the lyrical nature of it. It feels like a catharsis for the band, but also feels like a new start for them. These songs are huge, and they're crushing. Check out songs like Modern Misery and Raw Beggars. And also the anthemic Doomsday, which has got Tom Searle's riffs written all over it. My favourite song on the album, though, is Seventh Circle, which is a 2-minute hardcore face melter. Great song. It's a real achievement to have such triumph in the face of adversity, and Architects are a band that people have got behind, and I really hope they push on and become the massive band that they deserve to be. So number 2 is Idles, Joy as an Act of Resistance. This is the second album from post-punk punk band Idles from the UK. I know they don't like being called punk, but at the end of the day, I think they are a punk band in more than just their sound. They've become a very vital band, and this feels like the most relevant album anyone's put out this year. It wears its heart on its sleeve and has themes all over it about not being a stereotype, not doing exactly as you're meant to do as a man, as a person. And if that's not punk, then I don't know what is. It's honest and fragile, and it retains the raw anger and rage that they have all through their songs. And in a way, this embodies punk. The title itself, Joy is an Act of Resistance, all about loving yourself and being honest with yourself in the face of adversity from society around you. It's got pounding percussion throughout it, and the shouted, repetitive nature of the lyrics make this really sort of hammer home into your brain what they're trying to do. It's uplifting and rabble-rousing, and it demands your attention. If you've never listened to them before, check out Colossus and Danny Nedelko for this, and you'll see exactly what I mean. So here we come then. Number 1 album of the year on my list of the top 20, and it goes to Black Peaks, All That Divides. This is the second album from UK post-rock, alt-rock. I don't like labelling them. Black Peaks have got so much more going on than that. But this is their second album, and they've pushed the boundaries from where they started on debut album Statues, which is also a great album. They've retained the big riffs and the big choruses that they had on there. Check out Opener Can't Sleep, but they've expanded the sound and ideas what they had on the more sort of progressive and expansive songs like The Midnight Sun on here. They're complex songs, but catchy at times as well, and it's never dull. Will's vocals on here are outstanding, going from throaty screams right up to his incredible clean vocals that he possesses. They let the songs breathe more on this album, and they build the songs up. Check out the outstanding song Ether, with its really good drumming and bass work on there. The songs twist and turn, and it's unpredictable, but it still retains a sense of melody throughout. The album comes in like waves. It ebbs and flows. It's crushing at times, and then floating and ambient at other times. It's an album that deserves repeat listens, and what they've done here is something very, very special in my eyes. If you've never checked out Black Peaks before, go listen to Can't Sleep or Home off this album, and you'll know exactly what I mean. Anyway, that's the end of my list. I'm sure you've all got different ideas, and please put your comments below what you think has been the best album of this year. And as always, I can't listen to every album that's come out this year, so if the album you think is really, really good that hasn't got in my list, there's a good chance I might just not have listened to it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and have a good Christmas, and I'll see you in the new year.